Hi guys, how are you? This is Faria here. I know I don't come live very often on this group, and I've been wanting to come here and talk about this very important issue about how the society and the community can support a family who have children with autism or any disability. Now, I've been umming and ahhing about this, whether I should talk about this or not, because I don't want to sound as if I'm moaning or I'm blaming anybody, because that's not my intention at all. And I apologize if anyone out there is watching this and you feel that this is coming across as a blame, because it's not. It's not because people actually don't know how to support. And that's what I want to try and do. I want to come here today and explain to the world how you can support a family or a child who has special needs, so that the family feels supported and the family feels included. You can hear lots of noise because that's Afia playing in the lounge. She's a little calm now. Oh, and she's throwing things on the door. So I thought this is a perfect opportunity for me to come here and talk to you guys. By the way, I'm all dressed up. This is Feel Good Friday because I just felt like getting dressed, putting makeup on, and making myself feel good. I'm not going out. I'm not doing anything special, but I'm with Afia. She's playing at the moment, and we're just going to carry on with that every day Friday. So back to the topic here of how you can support a family. And I can speak from my experience. Also, I can speak from the experience when I speak to other parents out there. So we have a small community, parents who have children with autism. We tend to form this instant bond. Whether it's autism or any sort of disability, we have this instant bond that we form with each other because we know exactly what it's like to be in each other's shoes. We know what our lives are like. Everything is very different to a neurotypical family out there. So we all keep in touch as and when. We all talk to each other, and we all have the same issues. That is that the world does not understand what we are trying to say. The world does not understand how we would like them to support us. The world does not understand how they can support us. And this is a common thing that has been going on for years and years. It's not new. Afia was diagnosed with autism since she was 3, and she's 13 now, so it's been 10 years. And she started displaying signs of autism way before she was actually diagnosed. So even if I think about the time of her, from the time that she got diagnosed until now, so that's 10 years, and she's gonna be 14 in March, so nearly 14 years, nearly 11 years now actually. So in that time, nothing has changed. The support or people trying to understand this, the type of support that us parents need, none of that has changed. And sometimes I feel that things have gone backwards. I mean, finally, actually, because of COVID and because of isolation rules, the world for the first time knows what it feels like to be isolated. Now, this sounds horrible, but for the first time, I felt that I was part of the world. After a long time, I felt during the time of isolation, and it's not just me, it's all of my friends who have children with autism or any sort of additional needs, they all felt the same thing. We all, for the first time, we felt that the world is going through something similar that we go through on a daily basis. That is isolation. Isolation from the whole world. Not being able to go out, not being able to go places, meet your family, meet your friends, have anybody around. We do this day in and day out. We've been doing it way before COVID isolation started, and now the isolations are ending all around the world, and we are still carrying on doing that. But because of COVID isolations, for the first time, the world knows how it feels like to be isolated from the whole world. So I feel like this is the best time to tell people, look, you know what it feels like to be isolated. You exactly know what it's like for whatever reason, whether you've been isolated because of COVID or because you have a child with special needs, but you know that feeling. So now when your isolation has ended, think about those families whose isolations have not ended and started way before this COVID isolation started. So we literally feel isolated 24/7, and that's a fact. I'm not mourning here. I'm not trying to blame anybody. It's not anybody's fault. You know, it's nobody's fault. It's not Afia's fault that I feel like that. That's just the way our lives are. So, but what the world doesn't do is they don't make us feel included. Now that's where the problem is. So, I mean, there are so many things I can talk about. And there's so many examples, but one of the small examples that pops into my head is when I couldn't have any guest into my house because that was triggering Afia's behavior. And, you know, there was just, it's not that Afia's behavior was triggered at the time when the guests were here. Her behavior would carry on after the guest had gone, and then it'll carry on for days and sometimes weeks. So, and Afia hasn't gained anything. I haven't gained anything. In fact, you know, our lives are harder now because we've hosted guests for an hour or so. So then I came to a point that I was honest with people and I said, look, I'm very sorry. I'm afraid that I can't have you guys anymore to my house. Maybe you can come and visit us when Afia is at school. During those school hours, you can come and visit me and we can meet up. But when the time that Afia is home, whether it's weekends or evenings, it's best if there's nobody around her, because that's going to trigger a whole lot of behavior. I mean, she is accepting guests a little bit more now. We are still working on that, but it's a long process. So when I was honest, people just suddenly jumped on me. You know, I was blamed to being horrible. I was called names as uptight parent, all sorts. So I'm already isolated. I'm having to not meet people during the times that I'm caring for Afia. So I'm very, very isolated. So rather than actually working around me, when I'm saying like, let's meet, I really want to meet other humans out there because it's not nice to be isolated all the time. Let's meet at the time that suits me because that's going to make my life easier, Afia's life easier. People found that very, very offensive. So this is then, you know, and I then got more excluded. I got more excluded. Everybody was like, well, you know, she's being uptight and whatever, didn't care to understand where I'm coming from. And they isolated me more. And how is that helping? How is that helping anybody? And there's so many examples. There's so many examples. Like, you just want to feel included. As a human being, you want to be part of a group. You want to feel included, part of society, part of community. And those things are taken away from us time and time again because sadly the close family and friends, and it's not the distant friends, it's not the distant family, it is often the close family and friends who don't understand what you're going through again and again. And despite of us explaining to them, we just get blamed. Because I was speaking to another mum and she was getting blamed about the fact that she's being you know, too soft with her child. She's mollycoddling her child a lot and she's not teaching him the right things to be socializing and whatever. Hang on a second, this child has got autism. Socialization is a massive, massive issue for people who have autism. Why are you blaming the mother? And how is that going to make the mother feel when you say all of these things, that she's not working hard on her child and she's mollycoddling him, or for whatever reason you're saying that? How is that going to make this mother feel? So what happens is we end up isolating ourselves more. We become more of an island, and this carries on. So all those families out there, including ourselves, we are very, very isolated from the whole world, not because we want to stay isolated, but because the society, the community, people around us don't understand. People often offer me help, and which is amazing. But the thing is, the kind of help they're offering, it's not helpful. So when I tell them that actually, you know what, this is not going to help. What you're saying is really, really kind of you, but that's not going to help my situation. Could you do it this way? Because that's actually going to be helpful. And people don't like that, because they're like, oh, well, we can't help you on your terms. Now, I'm not just making these terms for the sake of being difficult for anybody. I'm just saying what is going to work for my disabled child, because I know exactly what's going to work for my disabled child. But people, again, get really offended and they don't want to help me on my terms. Now, if you're not going to help me according to the way that is going to be helpful for me, how is that help? That's not help at all, is it? So I really apologize if I'm sounding as if I'm having a moan, or I'm giving a lecture, or I'm blaming people out there. I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm just trying to state the facts. And this has not just happened with me. This is happening with several families out there, because I'm in touch with all of them. And not all the families who have children with disability, but as many families as I can. And I used to be a teaching assistant, and I'm really good friends with my ex-pupils' parents, and so we share our stories, and it's the same story in every household. It's the same thing. We all say the same thing, that people around us don't really understand what we're trying to say. They're constantly questioning us. We are being called names. And that is making us feel worse about ourselves, and that is making us feel more and more isolated. So I'm going to end this now, because there's so many other examples I can give of not just myself, but other parents that I have heard of. But I can be here all night giving all those examples, but I don't want to do that. So just before I go, I would like to say, think about the time of COVID isolation, when you weren't allowed to go out, meet anybody, do anything. Think about that. And then remember that these families are still in isolation. Even when the world is not in isolation, these families who have disabled children, their isolation is carrying on. And how can you now help them to not feel isolated? So suddenly, when the whole world was in isolation, there were WhatsApp groups from the community, from neighbors, everything online, on Facebook. I felt amazing. I felt wow. For the first time in years and years and years, I'm actually feeling part of this world. I'm feeling part of society, because everything is online. Everybody's interacting with me. Before that, there was hardly any interaction with me, because I wasn't meeting anyone, because I was isolated for one reason or the other, not just because I'm a carer for Afia, but people got offended when I tried to tell them what's going to help us. So try maybe just messaging us once in a while, just saying, how are you? I know, you work really hard. Just try and say something nice. Try and remember them at times when you're very busy. Try and remember those families who have disabled children, because I'm sure we all know now what it's like to be in isolation. So I'm gonna end it here, guys, and I hope I haven't offended anybody. That's not my intention at all. I'm just here to talk about a very, very important fact, and I hope I have got my message across. So take care, have a good weekend. I'm gonna go back to Afia, check on her. I can hear lots of sounds. I'm sure she's having huge fun. She's playing with oats in the lounge. That's part of her sensory play, and she absolutely loves it. And she's busy with that, and so that I can do my things like this. and I'm gonna work on my laptop for a bit with a Marvel movie in the background, and I'm gonna have some popcorn. So enjoy your Friday evening and have a lovely weekend. Bye.